In the shadowed groves of an ancient Athenian academy, Socrates gathers his most trusted disciples, Plato, Xenophon, and Aristippus, for a quiet dialogue under the olive trees. The topic: how a man may rise to great power and wealth without drawing the envy that destroys him. Socrates, ever the midwife of truth, begins with a question. My friends, tell me, why do most men who acquire riches lose them as quickly as they gain them? Plato, the idealist, responds first. Because they mistake display for strength, master. They parade their gold like peacocks, believing it proves their virtue. But the eye of envy is sharper than any sword. Xenophon, the practical soldier, nods. In war, we learn never to reveal our full strength until the moment of attack. The general who shows his entire army invites the enemy to prepare. So too with wealth. The man who flaunts invites thieves, tax collectors, and false friends. Aristippus, lover of pleasure yet sharp of mind, laughs softly. And yet, Socrates, most men crave admiration more than security. They would rather be envied than ignored. Socrates smiles, his eyes twinkling. Exactly, and therein lies the paradox. The prince, or in our modern terms, the entrepreneur, who wishes to build an enduring fortune must master what our descendant Machiavelli would call the art of concealment. He must appear harmless while consolidating real strength. Plato leans forward. Like the Medici bankers of Florence, master, they presented themselves as humble merchants, yet controlled popes and wars through quiet ledgers. Precisely, Socrates replies. Men judge more by the eye than by the hand. They confuse symbols for substance. Let them see a modest tunic, a simple home, an unremarkable chariot. Let them believe you are average. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, your capital compounds, your alliances deepen, your knowledge grows. Xenophon adds, in military terms, it is camouflage. The lion does not roar before the pounce. He stalks in silence. Aristippus raises an eyebrow. But Socrates, is this not deception? To pretend poverty while possessing wealth. Socrates shakes his head. Not deception, discretion. The wise man does not lie about his means. He simply withholds unnecessary information. When asked about his fortune, he speaks of family, health, philosophy. He changes the subject. The fool volunteers details that awaken greed in others. Plato muses. So the first discipline is modesty in appearance? Yes, Socrates confirms. Drive a chariot that blends with traffic. Dress like you earn less than you do. Live in comfort, not ostentation. When fortune smiles, when a venture succeeds, when an investment multiplies, do not upgrade everything. Reinvest. Every coin not spent on display becomes another soldier in your private army of capital. Xenophon nods vigorously. The average soldier spends his bonus on wine and women. The veteran invests in better armor, sharper weapons, stronger alliances. Aristippus grins and enjoys life more sustainably. Socrates continues, envy is the greatest thief of wealth. The moment you announce progress, you awaken it. The neighbor who thought himself your equal suddenly feels inferior. The friend who borrowed money now resents your success. The relative appears with outstretched hand, all because you spoke too soon. Plato summarizes, so we build in silence, letting results whisper later. Exactly, Socrates says. The oak grows slowly and silently. The reed bends and makes noise in every wind, yet breaks in the storm. Be the oak. The disciples fall quiet, absorbing the wisdom. In the distance, Athens bustles, merchants shouting, politicians posturing, citizens chasing recognition. But here, under the olives, for minds forge a quieter path to enduring power. As the sun climbs higher over the ancient Athenian grove, casting dappled shadows on the stone benches, Socrates steers the conversation deeper, his eyes gleaming with that familiar spark of inquiry. Now that we understand concealment as the foundation of enduring power, let us examine motion, the vital force that keeps wealth alive. Fortune, as our descendant Machiavelli would boldly declare, is a woman who must be mastered with decisive action. Tell me, my friends, what happens to wealth that lies idle, gathering dust like an unused tool? Xenophon, the seasoned soldier and historian, answers immediately, his voice carrying the authority of battlefield experience. It rusts, master. Like a finely forged sword left forgotten in its scabbard, it dulls and weakens over time. Inflation devours it silently day by day. Taxes claim their relentless share, and golden opportunities sail past without notice, leaving the idle holder poorer in spirit and purse. Plato, ever the philosopher of ideals and forms, adds thoughtfully, idle money is like stagnant water in a forgotten pond. It breeds corruption, algae of regret, and the foul odor of missed potential. What was once pure and promising becomes tainted, unfit for growth. Aristippus, the hedonist with a sharp wit, laughs lightly, raising his cup in mock toast. Or like fine wine left too long uncorked, it turns to vinegar, sour and undrinkable. A tragedy for something meant to bring joy and sustenance. Socrates nods approvingly, his beard twitching with amusement. Precisely, my friends. You have captured it well. The second discipline of quiet wealth is constant, purposeful motion. Money must never sleep, never rest idly like a lazy sentinel. The moment it enters your hands, whether from labor, trade, or wise investment, it should already have a predetermined destination, an asset that appreciates, grows, and multiplies while you rest, philosophize, or pursue higher pleasures. Xenophon leans forward eagerly, his military mind engaged. It reminds me of the bold Athenian merchants who sent fleets of ships across the treacherous Aegean. Some vessels sank in storms, others fell to pirates, but the survivors returned laden with spices, silks, and treasures that more than covered every loss. A fortune built on calculated risk and relentless motion. Yes, Socrates agrees warmly. Today's equivalents are no less adventurous. Real estate that yields rent and appreciates in value. Businesses that generate profit, funds and shares in productive enterprises. Anything that creates return without constant toil. The poor and unwise cling desperately to cash, hoarding it in chests or modern banks, watching helplessly as it fades. The powerful, the true strategists, circulate it boldly and watch it return multiplied, like seeds scattered on fertile soil, yielding a hundredfold harvest. Plato, stroking his chin thoughtfully, poses the inevitable question. But master, how does one choose where to deploy this motion without falling into reckless speculation, chasing illusions like fools pursuing shadows in the cave? Precision over blind speed, Socrates replies firmly. Machiavelli wisely warned against building on mud, the shifting sands of the crowd's frenzy. Do not chase hype, fleeting trends, or the noisy clamor of speculative bubbles. The masses gamble on whispers and rumors. The strategist invests in proven paths. Ownership of land and enterprises, leverage through wise borrowing, compounding through patient growth. Aristippus raises a valid point, his eyes twinkling. Yet even the soundest investments require boldness, do they not? Fortune, that capricious lady, favors the brave who sees her. Calculated bravery, Socrates corrects gently but firmly. Be both fox and lion, as Machiavelli advised. The fox recognizes traps, the deceptive promises of quick riches. The lion frightens wolves, the competitors and market predators. Be cautious in selection, decisive in action. Study, observe, then strike with commitment. Xenophon shares a vivid military analogy. A wise general does not send his entire army charging into unknown terrain without scouts. He diversifies his forces, ensures multiple routes of supply and retreat. If one flank falters, others advance to victory. Exactly, Socrates says, gesturing emphatically. Diversification is modern armor against fortune's arrows. Index funds mirroring broad markets. Property in different regions, less vulnerable to local woes. Businesses in varied sectors. Some may falter in storms, but the survivors cover losses tenfold, building resilience. Plato reflects deeply. So we automate where possible, recurring investments, systematic deployment, like soldiers marching on predetermined paths without daily orders. Yes, Socrates confirms. Create systems that march without constant command. Your money becomes a disciplined army that conquers territory while you philosophize, teach, or enjoy life's finer pleasures. Aristippus grins broadly. Or enjoy those pleasures more sustainably, without fear of tomorrow's emptiness. The group laughs together, the sound echoing lightly among the olive trees. But Socrates grows serious once more, his expression turning contemplative. Yet true motion requires another crucial virtue: digital silence in our age of constant broadcast and performance. Every boast, every photo of luxury, every public declaration is a leak in your vessel, letting precious resources escape. The wise disappear from the public eye, withdrawing from the clamor. Plato nods solemnly, like Odysseus binding himself to the mast to resist the siren's deadly song. We must bind ourselves against the siren call of validation and attention. Precisely, Socrates says with emphasis. Delete the need to prove progress to strangers. Resist sharing glimpses of your growing empire. The man who moves quietly wins twice, once through achievement itself, and again through the element of surprise when others finally notice. Xenophon adds gravely, in war, silence before battle is most terrifying to the enemy. They imagine threats greater than reality. Aristippus concludes with a sly smile, and in wealth building, most profitable, no one prepares defenses against what they cannot see. Socrates smiles broadly, satisfied with their insights. So deploy boldly but precisely. Circulate wealth before time and inflation rob it. Diversify like a wise commander. Automate like a disciplined army. And above all, move in silence, letting your actions echo only when victory is assured. The disciples sit in thoughtful quiet, the weight of these principles settling like fertile soil ready for planting. As shadows lengthen across the ancient grove, the olive leaves rustling softly in the evening breeze, Socrates guides the dialogue toward its profound conclusion, the building of legacy. We have spoken wisely of concealment as the shield and motion as the lifeblood of wealth. Now, my dear friends, let us examine the final mastery, constructing multiple streams of income and protecting what you have so carefully created. Tell me, what truly separates mere survival from genuine sovereignty in this world? Plato, ever attuned to ideals of harmony and structure, answers thoughtfully. One income is vulnerability, master. It is a single thread that, when cut, leaves a man naked before fortune's whims. Many streams, however, grant independence, the freedom to choose one's path without fear of ruin. Xenophon, drawing from his military experience, agrees emphatically. A general with only one supply line starves when it is severed by the enemy. Multiple lines, diverse, independent, ensure survival even in the harshest siege. So too with wealth. Reliance on one source invites catastrophe. Aristippus, with his characteristic lightness, adds, and multiple streams allow greater pleasure without the constant fear of loss. One can enjoy life's delights knowing that if one fountain dries, others continue to flow abundantly. Socrates nods, his eyes reflecting the deepening twilight. Well said, all of you. This is the fifth discipline of quiet wealth. Create parallel streams of income. A single paycheck, no matter how substantial, is a chain binding you to another's will. Multiple sources, businesses, investments, skills honed into value, are true freedom, the foundation of sovereignty. Plato leans forward, eager for practical wisdom. But master, how does one begin building these streams quietly, without drawing attention or risking everything on bold leaps? Start small and deliberately, Socrates advises, gesturing as if planting seeds in fertile soil. A side pursuit that generates modest return, a rental property acquired discreetly, a digital creation or service offered anonymously, a skill turned into quiet consultancy. Each must be independent and resilient, designed so that if one falters or dries up temporarily, the others continue to flow undisturbed, sustaining you. Xenophon warns with the caution of a strategist. Yet these streams must be protected with proper structure, legal veils, separate entities, like fortified outposts guarding the main camp. Yes, Socrates confirms, his voice firm. This is the sixth discipline. Construct fortresses of law. In our modern age, these are LLCs, trusts, corporate structures, modern shields that stand between your accumulated wealth and the hungry eyes of opportunists, litigants, or envious authorities. The truly rich build labyrinths of ownership so complex that even determined seekers cannot easily find the true treasure. Aristippus laughs softly, raising his cup. So no one discovers the full extent of the hoard until it is too late to challenge it. Exactly, Socrates says with a knowing smile. And remember, talk less about your plans. Every shared ambition or detailed scheme invites interference, imitation, or outright sabotage. Machiavelli wisely warned, never show the wound until you are ready to strike the fatal blow. Plato reflects deeply. And one should give quietly too, anonymous charity that builds unseen goodwill and moral strength without awakening envy. The seventh discipline, Socrates agrees warmly. Charity performed without applause or recognition strengthens your moral authority in ways that public displays never can. It creates invisible alliances and debts of gratitude that endure far longer than any fleeting admiration. Xenophon adds gravely, choose allies who guard silence as fiercely as they guard their own fortunes. The eighth discipline, Socrates affirms, your circle must reflect and reinforce your direction. Keep close only those who build in quiet alignment, not those who gossip, boast, or seek validation through noise. Reduce your companions until only the discreet and constructive remain, men and women whose presence sharpens rather than dulls your edge. Finally, as the first stars appear in the darkening sky, Socrates concludes with solemn gravity, the ninth and ultimate discipline, constant, quiet evolution. Fortune is ever-changing. Markets shift, opportunities arise and vanish. Threats emerge unexpectedly. The wise adapt without announcement, studying relentlessly, learning new skills, refining strategies. The market ultimately rewards consistency and patience above fleeting brilliance. Plato summarizes the journey with clarity. Appear average while silently building an empire. Move money with precision and purpose. Multiply streams for resilience. Protect everything with legal structure and discretion. Give anonymously to build unseen strength. Choose allies who honor silence. Evolve continuously without broadcasting change. Aristippus raises his cup in toast, eyes gleaming. To quiet power, the kind that endures. Xenophon joins, voice steady. To invisible strength that no enemy can measure or assault. Plato smiles serenely. To legacies that whisper across generations, long after the noisy have faded. Socrates raises his hand in gentle blessing, the starlight catching in his eyes. The greatest power often looks ordinary to the careless observer. Build everything in profound silence. Let your results speak only when they are ready and irresistible. Fortune favors the discreet, the patient, the masterful concealers of strength. As stars fully emerge overhead, the disciples depart quietly into the night, carrying this ancient yet timeless wisdom forward. Principles for building empires that no one notices until far too late to challenge or dismantle.